Norm is usually our director of this show, and we're privileged today to have him on the show.
Thank you very much.
Welcome
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, welcome anyway, Norm. You served in what?
I was in the Air Force
Air
for 4
Force.
years. Went in and basically got the GI Bill. I signed up when I was a senior in high school, December, my senior year, and delayed enlistment. Went in August of '77 to basic training out in San Antonio.
Okay.
And then a number of different trainings after that, as far as I was at Shepherd Air Force Base in northern Texas for another 6 weeks after basic, and then went up and was at Mountain Home, Idaho for another month. That was in November of '77, and then I had orders to go to England. I was stationed at RAF Upper Heyford, which is about 15 miles north of Oxford. And I was there from arrived after Christmas in 1977 and stayed through to December of '79.
Oh, what did you say about RAF?
Royal Air Force.
Yeah, Royal Air Force
You was
base.
assigned. Oh, you was at the base.
Yeah, it was one of those NATO bases, as far as obviously it was an American base, but on a RAF.
So you had training at several bases. What did you train for? What was your position?
I was a crew chief, aircraft maintenance specialist.
Okay.
And the aircraft that I was working on initially was F-111. This is a fighter bomber, Vietnam era, as far as it served in the 60s and 70s, and actually still serves today, I believe.
That was a swept wing?
Exactly, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a big airplane as far as a 2-engine jet. Obviously, as far as really as far as what it was used there at Upper Heyford was cruise missiles. As far as it was a launch platform.
Okay.
From that aspect of things.
Carry what, one or two?
Usually two. Obviously, you could carry many more on the wings if you wanted to, but we had aircraft that were ready to launch as far as the
on standby all the time.
Yeah, and so we had several there and typically as far as they had two missiles loaded up inside of them.
They launch what, in about 5 minutes or so?
Pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Was they in the shelters? Hangars?
At that point, as far as they were doing a lot of building, but all the time that I was there, they were shelters, okay, but they were relatively open shelters as far as open in the back and the front.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as, definitely the idea was that they needed to get off the ground quickly before we were attacked.
So the pilot had to be right with the plane. Basically, he was stationed right with the plane during that standby.
Yes.
So if he wasn't in the cockpit, he could get in there immediately.
Pretty quick, yeah.
And take off.
Was these planes all ground-based, or was they also carrier?
The F-111s were all ground-based. As far as like I said, as far as they were pretty good size. And I know that
they're
as far
bigger
as
and heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When General Dynamics designed them back in the 60s, as far as they did experiment with carrier aspect of things, but really as far as in the end, as far as the Air Force is the one that used them all, and they're all ground-based, and so that's what I trained in Mountain Home, as far as they had some there to get me more specific with that specific aircraft. And then, like I said, when I arrived in England, yeah, I was an airman basic, a slick sleeve, and ready to.
But they start coming on pretty.
Oh yeah, we had a good time with it.
You was a crew chief now. If you were, you was in charge of the airplane, right?
Well, yes, but I wasn't assigned that. As far as when I got over to England, the unit that I was involved in, we worked in the phase hangars as far as, and we worked heavy repair of the aircraft.
Okay, so maintenance, lots of maintenance.
Yeah, our shop did all kinds of things as far as it was repair and reclamation. We did riggings of all the flight controls and stuff like that. We were also crash recovery. We did the tire shop. And then, like I said, as far as in the phase hangar, we worked on the slats and the flaps. On the wings themselves, the front leading edge comes forward. That's a slat, and the back side of it is a flap. And these are used as far as in takeoff and landings.
Give you more wing area.
More wing area, more lift at a slower
Right.
speed.
Right.
And
You
then, of
didn't-
course,
you-
that whole wing swinging.
Yeah, the whole wing pivots.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had to take care of that a little bit too, as far as when I was
Okay.
there with the screw jack that moves that wing. Things wear out and they have to be replaced every so many years, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I ended up replacing a lot of those screw jacks. That as far as it, so it was a great time to be a mechanic. As far as we did lots of different things: replaced windshields, replaced rudders, replaced landing gears, throttle cables, you name it. We were doing it.
Airplane inside out.
You betcha.
You took care of it.
Yeah. So I didn't have a specific plane that I was assigned to.
Just whatever they brought in the shop, right?
Pretty much.
Did you have to do any crash recovery?
Luckily, no. We were prepared for it. We had all kinds of equipment. One of the things that we had was a 50-ton crane. This thing was like an earth mover, okay, as far as, the big 16-foot jelly-filled tires. Lots of other equipment like that. As far as we had a semi-truck that we had we had a flatbed on the back there, and there was a big a unit strapped to the first half of that flatbed, as far as it had all kinds of picks and shovels and implements of destruction, as far as to recover things with.
So you was interested to see if you could salvage anything off that plane?
Well, obviously picking up the pieces. Really, in any crash, the first thing is pick up all the pieces. Yeah, security and recovery of all the parts of the aircraft, and then obviously as far as
you need that for an investigation, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Whose job was it then to put it all back together?
That was above my pay grade.
So did you like Mountain Home?
I did. As far as I was only there for like 4 weeks, and it's one of those things as far as you can see the mountains all the way around you, but the base itself is right in the plateau.
My wife's from Idaho, so
Yeah.
so
Okay.
we're familiar with Mountain Home up there.
Oh, a beautiful country.
Cold in winter.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I was up there, like I said, November, and it definitely high plains, got the cold.
It's a drier cold in here, though.
Oh yeah. Well, Lubbock, Texas is like that as well. As far as that was my other base. Where when
Lubbock is in the Panhandle, right?
it is, yes.
And that's sand, right?
No, it's agriculture up there. As far
It
as
is.
yeah. Like I said, 2 years in England working on F-111s, and then my tour was done. I got rotated back to the United States and assigned at Reese Air Force Base, which is a pilot training base at that time out in Lubbock, Texas. And so I flew back home. As far as my home's Ann Arbor, Michigan, and had some time with family for Christmas, and then started my way out to Lubbock. Drove. I bought a pickup truck after I got back from in the States, and drove my way out to Texas. And at that point, as far as the speed limit was 55, so I know what eternity is because I drove from Texarkana over to Lubbock as far as the 55 miles an hour. So
Okay. I've been through Texarkana a couple times. Went through there on the railroad.
okay,
When I was inducted, so forth, they took me to Fort Bliss, Texas,
yep,
El Paso.
yeah.
We went through Texarkana.
I was originally assigned to go to El Paso, and then
Biggs Air Force Base?
I can't remember what it was as far as I
El,
knew it was El
Paso
Paso.
is Biggs.
Yeah, and then they reassigned me as far as to Reese Air Force Base, and both of those bases were working on T-38s. Those are the pilot trainers as far
Right.
as so and that was easy duty as well. As far as once again, as far as aircraft maintenance, I was in the phase hangar. I was in the hangar all the time. So aircraft would come in, we'd take the panels off, do all kinds of inspections, put it all back together and push it out.
See, now my uncle, he was in the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
and he worked on the radio engines.
Okay.
And we went down to Florida, and he got us onto the Gulf Reed Air Force or Naval golf course.
Okay.
When we came up the 10th hole, here's the Blue Angels putting on a show for us for about 45 minutes. They trained over the golf course. And guess who left the camera at the house? So, I mean, it was beautiful just watching it. we couldn't concentrate on a golf game, but we was watching the Jets.
Yes, indeed.
It was
Yeah.
just- and they can make us. They
They put on a great show.
Straight up.
A great show.
Now, your job in maintaining these airplanes, you couldn't have trained to handle all the aspects of everything you did. So lots of this was on-the-job training.
Well, you have repair manuals. Okay.
Okay, you followed.
You know, as far as it, yeah.
You had all the tools and everything.
Yeah.
You worked.
I turned
inside
a lot of
hangar.
screws. Let's put it that way. As far as this is how I defended my country, I turned a lot of screws. Okay.
Well, I understand that, but that's necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got to keep the planes flying.
All right.
So yeah, as far as when we repair stuff, you know, you have a manual out, and it walks you through step by step as far as what you've got to do to get the repair done.
So did you have to follow them step by step, or did you kind of cut some corners?
Well, usually as far as you follow them step by step. I mean, you never know who's out walking around as far as inspector wise and things like that.
I
So.
was just going to say, once you finished your job of changing something out or fixing something,
Sure.
then you had an inspector inspect it, or
Oh, of course, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I usually as far as, I mean, now, there were like the sergeants that were in our unit would inspect as far as, because with every aircraft there's a set of forms, and so that when you take something out off the aircraft, you've got to write that up as far as in a book. They have to document as far as, so that, like I said, as far as all the activities that are going on with that.
Oh, that's in the flight book, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Stays with the plane.
by the time I was done in Lubbock, Texas, as far as working the docks there, I'd worked my way up as far as a sergeant, and I was signing off on those as far as, yep, I put that part back on, I put that panel back on, this is, you know, signed off, ready to fly. So.
Right on.
Did you have the opportunity to go up in these planes?
I was very, very fortunate as far as when I was in Texas, that I'm trying to think as far as it was like May of 1980. I was Airman of the Month, and that got me a flight in the backseat of a T-38, and that was just an amazing flight. I actually had two of them because the first time I went up, the aircraft had some radio problems, and so we just kind of flew around the base for 15-20 minutes before we came back and landed. But the second time I took off, back seat of a T-38, and the wonderful thing about it is as far as, I mean, I'd worked on them, so I knew all the systems, all the bits and pieces that were working, and they took off in a 4-ship formation as far as there was 4 jets, 2 up and 2 back. Okay, so I'm sitting here and I'm watching this next jet, which is just 20 feet away from us, basically do the same thing as far as at the very beginning. Both of us took off at the same time as far as, I mean, put the brakes on, get the afterburner going. Okay, here we go. Vroom. And, flying along just always as far as a 2-man formation, as far as the wingman concept sort of thing.
Sure.
And we took off from Lubbock. We flew north to Amarillo, took a turn there, and flew over to Clovis, New Mexico, as far as, which was another Air Force base. It was probably, if you drove it, about 2 hours. But obviously by plane, a few minutes.
Yeah.
And just a great flight as far as over that part of Texas.
Yeah.
Did your stomach stay with you all the time? That's a leading
No,
question.
no, I'm afraid not. As far as it, I used the air sick bag a couple times. We pulled some G's as far as
I was going to say, yeah.
on Facebook, as far as one of the pictures I have on Facebook is me all dressed up as far as in the pilot, got the helmet and the G suit on and standing next to the aircraft, and there's actually a Facebook group of people that worked at Reese Air Force Base, and so I posted it there.
Yeah.
Very good.
So yeah, that's my ace pilot shot.
It's all right. You earned it.
I'd love to go up in one of those.
Oh, it's a fantastic. I love to fly, and wherever I go, I always try to. When I was in England, there was another small RAF base that was gliders. They had it was, like I said, north of Oxford, and they had this glider club, and that was every weekend that they would get together, and we'd drive by the highway and see them out there, and it's like, I want to do that. So I had a chance to get a few flights training in a glider when I was in England, The real motivation was that they had really cheap beer in the clubhouse. So,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, the reason I ask him that question is most people go up for the first time or so forth this way.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like being on a ship. You don't have your sea legs,
oh yeah, it's like a roller coaster.
and it generally upsets you a little bit. But once you get that first flight in, why, from then on, like you say, you love it generally.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've had a chance to fly C-130. I had a chance to be up in the cockpit and take off, and I had a camera with me. I've had a chance to fly in a B-17. As far as once again, as far as in a PR kind of mode, as far as
Sure.
the camera in hand, and that was really reflective. As far as my father served in World War II
Oh, did he?
as a waist gunner in B-24. I've got some pictures of that and some slides, glass slides. As far as the films,
Sure.
you know. So that's kind of what my motivation was to go into the Air Force, and obviously, like I said, being stationed in England, very reminiscent. So,
Okay.
How long was you in England?
like I said, 2 years.
2 years.
Now, basically, they flew flights out of there basically on patrol, or
A lot. Well, obviously, training was a lot of it. It's part of NATO, so it was supporting all that activities on occasion.
that was the Cold War, basically.
Exactly.
We're talking.
Yeah.
So if you planes was carrying cruise missiles, I would imagine they'd be up flying around.
Well, that was obviously as far as their overall mission. Lots of daily activities was flights and training. There were places where they could practice with the bombs on England. On occasion, as far as they went and deployed, as far as other different places. I remember one time, as far as they had a bunch of war games in Sicily, and there was a group of aircraft as well as support people, you know, that were temporary duty in Sicily, and they came back with Uzo, so it's like it was all good.
But your job, basically, you was busy all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, in an Air Force base that way, you might have slack periods when not much is going on, but you have other times of increased activity.
there was always things, yeah. Always
But your
things going
job,
on.
you're always doing something.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to sit around very often.
That's what I was thinking.
You know, and obviously, as far as when I was in England, with the NATO aspect of things, you play war games. You know, that as
Right.
far as I remember, the day I was supposed to report for duty was in after New Year's, and they called an alert that morning. As far as 5 o'clock, you know, the PA goes off as far as reveille, and I'm going, okay, you know, I'm in the military. You know, I'm still new at it. I guess this is the way they start the day here. You know, my roommate at the time, as far as like, oh, you know, it's an alert. We got to get our stuff, and you know, he grabbed his canteen and web belt and all the other stuff.
Equipment you need to survive.
Right, yeah, for an alert, and off to work it goes, sort of thing. So that was my initiation into NATO. So
Yeah.
When I was in Kansas, I was one of my duties too was I got assigned to the riot controls. back
okay,
then. And we loaded our trucks full of ammo and everything, took them down to Salina, Kansas, loaded them on the airplane.
Mhm.
They flew us to Topeka, Kansas, and then we were making sure we were prepared to get ready and go to the riots. So, I mean, it's just,
wow,
so it's just, and then I went to Germany there and flew on all your airplanes and I remember the weapon seat, I think, and then you go climb up in the ladder, and then the pilots were sitting down in front.
yeah,
And then you could sit up there, and they let us on the back way from Germany. They let us sit up there and talk to them the whole way back. So I mean,
oh yeah.
it was no, hey, lock the cockpit, you can't get in, and all this.
Well, as you said, as far as usually I direct the show, and I apply my Air Force training to lots of different things, and we often talk about as far as when we're recording a show like this, as far as just the takeoff and the landing is the busiest part, and you know, but once you're up and flying along, as far as it's like, yeah, we can have a conversation, you know, it's
Right. You know, I'm amazed. I've had the privilege of flying on large commercial airliners, and you got maybe like close to 400 people on board a 747.
yes indeed.
and you've got all the fuel on board to go overseas. You've got all the luggage that all these people carried. You've got meals because they're going to serve a meal on board the flight, and all the stewardess and the crew and everything this way. And
And
when
all
that
that
plane,
can still get off the
plane
ground.
at the end of the runway, when they hit those throttles, they still put you back in the seat. Now you expect that out of a fighter jet. That's gonna, you
Yeah.
know, it's noted for speed.
Yeah.
But a
But
big
the-
plane that heavy, it's going to fly halfway around the world, maybe fly to Japan, and it still puts you back in the seat when it takes off. So the thrust of those engines is,
Yeah, obviously on a 747, as far as the turbofans are huge, as far as 10 feet diameter.
Yeah.
Once I got out of the service, as far as in '81, I started going to school, college at Eastern Michigan University, and one of the jobs I had, part-time jobs as far as well as a student, I worked at Detroit Metro Airport. As far as, and at the time I was working for People Express, but I also picked up other jobs as far as and worked British Air, Sabina, and a few other odd aircraft.
Yeah,
As far as
nationals.
yeah, exactly. I worked at the international terminal at Detroit Metro for about a year and a half. So once again, using my Air Force training to be out there with the batons, as far as you know, and beating on the bags. No,
Did you ever go to the museum out there at Willow Run?
have not been there yet. That's on my list.
You're right there at it.
I know. As far as I drove by it many times, but I can see the tails of the aircraft as far as from the highway. But no, I haven't made it out there yet. Want to.
okay.
I've been down to Wright Pat Air Force Base as far as the Air Force Museum down in Dayton. That is spectacular. There's 3 different hangars, huge hangars.
Yeah, I've heard that was fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great trip.
It's been a long time since I've been down there.
I went down there one time with a Boy Scout troop as far as an activity. That was a good day.
They're still expanding that.
They are.
Year by year, they keep working on that base down there. And the museum and the base both are still
yeah.
active, very active.
Very active.
And you know, they keep adding planes to it. And they have to build. They're going to build another hangar.
Well, obviously, as far as we've got bases here in town, as far as out of Bearfield, the A-10s that are out there right now are great aircraft. As far as somewhat familiar with that, one of my roommates worked on A-10s when he was out in Las Vegas, as far as Nellis Field, and Nellis Field is kind of a test ground as far as for the Air Force, and so a lot of the prototypes and early aircraft come out there as far as and kind of put them through their paces.
Yeah.
How long have you been here at Access Fort Wayne, Norm?
I've been here. I started in '99, as far as so I'm coming up to 15 years, real soon, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been in the cable TV business as far as making local programs for almost 30 years.
Oh, I'll see.
So, like I said, as far as when I went to school there at Eastern Michigan, as far as I started in the cable business there in that area, and then took a job in Defiance, Ohio, as far as for 12 years before moving here to Fort Wayne.
Well, so you got quite a bit of experience.
Yeah, Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana.
Okay.
Well, it looks like a good job.
It is, as far as no 2 days are alike. Obviously, I meet wonderful people. I also work with wonderful people. The staff here at Access Fort Wayne is absolutely the best. I
They're
couldn't ask for
tops.
anything better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the volunteers that we have, as far as people that are running camera, that they, once again, it's a volunteer position as far as they are donating their time to come in here to help make these shows, and
We can't thank them enough for that.
they're great
But,
people.
you know, I've noticed that you are aware of all the shows that we've had with veterans, so this way, and I've always felt that kinship
Absolutely.
that you sort
Yes.
of get along with.
Oh, I'm always talking about the what's going on in the control room as far as
with the veterans and so
sure.
on.
Well, you're talking about the VA as far as you got to get your DD form 214.
Yeah, you know all about that stuff, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, like I said, every show I learn a little bit. That as far as you got to keep an open mind. because, like I said, we have just a very wide variety of people come through here making programs. So from that aspect, as far as, I try to connect. I try to, and once again, as far as...
we feel that respect, that kinship,
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, we sure
And
do.
I want to thank you for your service, Norm. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that, Carl.
Okay.
So, you've been here about 15, going on
About 15 years, yeah.
already. Okay.
We've made a few changes in that time frame as far as in lots of different ways. One of the first things that happened was that we got moved for years and years before we were on Channel 10 on the cable system here in Fort Wayne. And in 1999, Comcast realigned their whole channel lineup and moved us from Channel 10 up to Channel 57. Along the way, we also got the two other channels that we're running right now, as far as which is Channel 58, which is government access, and Channel 55, cable 55, not the broadcast channel. Okay, so once again, as far as going from one full-time channel to three, it's been lots of fun. Then, of course, moving in and out of this, the library being remodeled, we picked up everything and moved out of here for a temporary 4 years, and then moved everything back.
Yeah.
Did you still operate during those 4 years?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Just a different location.
Didn't skip a beat.
Very good. Very good.
Well, we've been coming down here about 3 years now with this show, and 3 years before that with one of the other shows.
Time flies.
Anyway, Norm, thank you for being on the show.
Dale,
Thanks
it's a
for
pleasure.
the service. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jerry,
Nice meeting you.
Pleasure, yes
Time
indeed.
flies when you're having fun.
It sure
does.
3 years
I'm
have
from,
just zipped by.
I moved down from Westland, Michigan.
Okay. Know the area well.
well, thank you for watching the show. If you see a veteran or someone in uniform, just walk up to them, say thank you for your service, shake their hand. Thank you, and good night.